Welcome to another edition of the Florida Chamber's Bottom Line with our guest Mark Wilson, President and CEO of the Florida Chamber, and Dave Hart, Executive Vice President of the Florida Chamber. So, Mark, your much anticipated 2011 legislative report card, what news do you have as it relates to the grades that lawmakers made?
Well, right. So the Florida Chamber is releasing our 2011 report card. And what voters are looking for right now is transparency. They want to know, where did my legislator vote on issues that create jobs in Tallahassee? And so what the Florida Chamber of Commerce Board has asked us to do is release a very transparent, very accurate report of where state legislators voted on the issues that matter most to job creation in Florida. And so we're releasing that today.
Did lawmakers make the grade? I mean, are we pleased with the results?
Overall, the lawmakers did do quite well this year. After all, 35 of the Chamber's 36 priorities passed the House. 31 out of 36 passed the Senate and made their way to the governor. So this year, for example, 60% of legislators made an A. That's pretty darn good. In fact, 52 made a perfect grade. So I would say that our members should be quite happy with how legislators performed on the whole.
Quite a few priorities. So let's just step back. What are some of those priorities? What do you base them on?
Well, remember, the business community is always working on creating jobs in the private sector. And so what the Florida Chamber does is all year long, we ask our members, people who create jobs, what do you need Tallahassee to do or stop doing that helps the private sector grow? So we look at insurance reform. We look at education reform. We look at regulatory reform. We look at things that are going to grow the private sector and help shrink government and help get the size and scope of government out of the way of small businesses who are the job creators in the first place.
Are there any anecdotes that stand out? I mean, do these report cards really make a difference?
Like I said earlier, voters are paying close attention to where their legislators are in terms of creating jobs or growing government. And what the report card does and how it matters most is too often elected leaders will go to Tallahassee and do one thing, but then go back home and meet with their local business community and say something completely different. So from a transparency and an accountability standpoint, it's vitally important that the business community has a report card that allows local businesses to see if what their elected leader is saying actually matches with what they did.
Do the lawmakers pay attention to the grades they get from the Florida Chamber?
Great question. And Ollie, I would tell you that they do. In fact, I'll share with you that in the last week of session, I pulled a member off the House floor to talk about one of our priorities that was coming up for a vote the next day. And in the course of that conversation, the lawmaker said to me, David, you got to get me a list of everything else the Chamber has coming up this final week so I don't miss on any votes where the Chamber would expect me to be. And that alone showed how clued in they are to their votes and the fact that there are business leaders back home paying attention to the grade they earn in our report card.
And going back to lawmakers, you, the Chamber, have invested very heavily in campaigns. Actually, in the upwards, published reports show in the upwards or north of $5 million. Does this make a difference when you are trying to push your pro-business agenda?
Sure. Well, obviously, elections matter, and it's a very expensive process to educate voters on where individual legislators stand on issues that matter to them, to job creation, to taxes, to the size of government. And having said that, I would say the Florida Chamber's report card is one tool that's used. It's not the only tool. We have some of the best political talent in the state. Marion Johnson and John Waring are part of our Political Institute team. They very carefully interview, along with 70 or 80 of our Florida Chamber members, they very carefully interview every single candidate that wants to run for office, 200, sometimes 300 candidates. And they're all asked the same questions about what will they do to create jobs, where do they stand on the issues that matter to small businesses. So the report card is very important, but it's one tool that we use.
With that, is there a bottom line? What do we need to get done when you release these report cards, or how important are they to the process?
Well, I think it's extremely important this year, and the reason is next year with redistricting in 2012, all 160 legislators are on the ballot again, and the national media is focusing on Florida. And Florida voters are going to be so inundated with political messages, that the report card becomes one tool that cuts through the clutter, where voters can see where was a legislator, where are they on the issues that matter to small business that create jobs in Florida. And that's really the bottom line.
Well, the report obviously will be on your website. And with that, thank you, Mark, Dave, and thank you, our viewers. And we hope your bottom line is looking up. Remember to visit the Florida Chamber website for more information about the report card.